The sky over Denver shimmered in pale morning sunlight as Flight 228 prepared for takeoff. Among the passengers settling into their seats was Emily Carter, a 19-year-old aviation student flying home to Miami after her semester break. She wore a light blue hoodie with Aerotech Academy stitched on the sleeve, something she never thought would matter beyond school pride. Her hair was tied in a messy bun, earbuds in, lost in thought as the engines roared to life. She had always loved the sound of takeoff, the deep rumble, the lift, that thrilling moment when wheels left the ground. But today she was just another passenger, reading an old aviation magazine and sipping orange juice. 2 seats ahead, a flight attendant was serving coffee to an elderly couple. Everything felt normal. 2 hours into the flight, the seatbelt sign turned on. Emily noticed 2 attendants whispering near the cockpit door. Their faces were pale. One picked up the intercom, her voice trembling. "If there's any passenger with flying experience, please make yourself known to the crew immediately." Emily froze. Her heart began to pound. Passengers around her looked confused. Someone laughed nervously, thinking it was a drill. But Emily saw their faces, the fear was real. She unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up. When she reached the cockpit, the door was open. The captain was slumped sideways in his seat, eyes closed, unmoving. The co-pilot's breathing was shallow, his head resting against the side window. The instruments glowed a cold green. "Oxygen masks hung loose. Are they—" she began. "Still alive," said the lead attendant, voice breaking. "But they're not responding. Please. You said you're in flight training." Emily nodded slowly, feeling her own body tremble. "Yeah, Cessna 172s, not this." "It's something," the attendant whispered. "Please, we need you." Emily slipped into the captain's seat, her legs shaking. She stared at the control panels, a sea of lights and numbers far beyond her experience. Her breathing quickened, but she forced herself to speak into the headset. "Mayday, mayday," she said, voice cracking. "This is Flight 228. Both pilots are incapacitated." For 5 seconds, silence. Then came a calm male voice from air traffic control. "Flight 228, this is Miami Center." "Who am I speaking to?" "This is Emily Carter," she whispered. 19 years old, I'm a student pilot." Another long silence. She could almost hear someone breathing through the radio. "All right, Emily," the voice finally said. "We're with you. You're in command now." The words hit her like a wave. Surreal, heavy, terrifying. The passengers didn't yet know her name, but in that moment, the lives of everyone on board, 178 souls, rested in her trembling hands. Emily adjusted the captain's seat, her fingers trembling as they brushed across the controls. The hum of the engines filled the air, steady, powerful, yet somehow louder now, almost alive. She swallowed hard and spoke again into the radio. "Miami Center, I have control of the aircraft. The autopilot seems engaged. I think—" "Copy that, Emily," replied Captain Rhodes, the controller guiding her. His voice was calm, professional, but there was something human in it too. A quiet recognition that a teenager now held the fate of an airliner. "We're going to do this together, okay? You've got time. The plane's stable. Just breathe." Emily nodded even though no one could see her. "Okay." Behind the cockpit door, passengers whispered and cried softly. A flight attendant tried to keep order, her voice shaking as she reassured them. "A young woman with flying experience is helping the aircraft. Everything is under control." Emily heard it faintly through the intercom. The words gave her a strange mix of courage and pressure. Under control. She had to make that true. "Emily," Captain Rhodes said again, "can you confirm your altitude and heading?" She scanned the instrument panel, her heart hammering. "Altitude 29,000, heading east. Good. You're doing perfect." A flicker of pride passed through her, followed instantly by guilt. She wasn't supposed to be here, not like this. She looked down at the pilots again. Both men were pale and still. A paramedic passenger had come forward but could only shake his head. They're breathing, but barely. Probably food poisoning or gas leak. I don't know. Emily bit her lip. "Okay, focus," she whispered to herself. She'd spent hours in flight simulators back home, but those were simple Cessnas. Light, small, forgiving. This was a Boeing 737, a machine that weighed over 80 tons. One wrong input could send it diving into chaos. "Emily, I'm putting you in touch with a Boeing instructor," Rhodes said. "He's going to talk you through the systems." A new voice came over the radio. confident, steady. Hey Emily, this is Captain Lewis. I've trained pilots for 25 years. You're going to be fine. First thing is don't touch anything you don't understand. We'll start simple. Okay, confirm autopilot on. She glanced at the panel. Yes, green light's on. Good, that means the plane's flying itself for now. Your job is to monitor and stay calm. Emily took a deep breath and nodded. Got it. Minutes turned into an hour. The passengers sat in tense silence. Some clutched hands, others prayed. The cabin crew delivered water bottles, trying to distract children who didn't understand what was happening. Every now and then, Emily caught her reflection in the windshield, her young face under the headset. Eyes red but focused, hands steadying over controls meant for seasoned pilots. Then, a light blinked on the panel. Autopilot disengaged. The plane jolted slightly, a shudder rolling through the cabin. Gasps echoed from behind. Miami Center, I think autopilot just turned off. Emily's voice spiked in panic. It's okay, Emily, Captain Rhodes said quickly. You've got this. Light hands on the yoke. Small movements. Emily gripped the controls, her arms tense but controlled. The plane dipped for a second and then leveled out. Her breathing steadied again. Okay, I think I've got it. Good girl, said Captain Lewis gently. That's exactly how pros do it. For the next few minutes, Emily flew manually, her first real command of an aircraft this size. The fear was still there, pounding inside her chest, but beneath it something new had begun to grow. A quiet confidence. She wasn't just reacting anymore. She was flying. Emily, the voice said again, we're lining you up for Miami International. Prepare for descent. Her hands trembled, but she nodded. Let's bring them home. The ocean glimmered far below as Flight 228 began its descent toward Miami. The sky was painted in soft gold, clouds glowing like silk in the afternoon sun. Inside the cockpit, Emily's hands were steady on the yoke, though her heart was still racing. Her headset crackled again, Captain Rhodes' calm voice cutting through the static. All right, Emily, you're doing great. We're going to bring you down slowly. Start reducing altitude to 15,000. Emily nodded. Roger that. Descending to 15,000. She reached for the throttle, easing it back just as she'd practiced on smaller planes. The aircraft responded, nose tilting gently downward. The sensation of descent made her stomach drop. She took a deep breath and glanced at the speed indicator. A little too fast. Speed's high, she murmured. Okay, said Captain Lewis, the Boeing instructor on the radio. Flaps 5. That'll slow you down. Emily's hand moved to the flap lever. She set it to 5 degrees, feeling the plane's resistance shift as the flaps extended. The hum of air changed tone. She could hear faint gasps from the passengers as turbulence rippled through the cabin. Behind the cockpit door, one of the attendants whispered through the intercom. Emily, passengers want to know if we're safe. Emily pressed the button and tried to sound stronger than she felt. We're okay. We're descending into Miami now. I promise, and we're going home. A few seconds of silence followed, then muffled applause from the cabin. That single moment gave her more strength than anything else could. Outside, sunlight hit the windshield, flooding the cockpit in golden light. Miami Center guided her step by step, calling out altitudes and runway coordinates. Runway 09 left is clear for you, Emily. Winds are calm. You're looking perfect. Copy that, she said softly. 10,000 feet. The clouds gave way to a breathtaking view of the Florida coast. Blue water, beaches, and distant city towers. Her eyes flicked across every instrument, reading numbers like her life depended on them. It did. Okay, Emily, Captain Lewis said, his voice more focused now. Flaps 15. Gear down. Her hands trembled slightly as she lowered the landing gear. A deep mechanical rumble echoed below. The landing lights blinked green. She checked the panel again, 3 greens. Locked and down. You're doing amazing, Lewis said. Now slow to 140 knots. That's your target. The runway was visible now, a thin gray strip growing larger by the second. Emily could see flashing emergency lights at the far end. Fire trucks, ambulances, they were waiting for her. Her chest tightened. This was it. No do-overs. No pause button. Final approach, she whispered, aligning the aircraft perfectly. Her voice was calm, but her body was tense with every heartbeat. Keep her steady. Emily, don't fight the turbulence, just guide her. At 500 feet, the automated warning sounded. Sink rate? Sink rate. The voice made her flinch, but she remembered her instructor's voice from months ago. Don't let fear fly the plane. Steady. Steady, she murmured. The ground rushed closer. The passengers clutched their seats, breathless. At 50 feet, she pulled gently on the yoke. The wheels kissed the runway, once then again. A hard jolt. The plane bounced slightly, then settled as the engines roared in reverse thrust. Brakes, Emily. Brakes. Her foot pressed down. The aircraft slowed, faster, slower, slower, until finally it stopped dead center on the runway. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the cabin erupted. Cheers, applause, sobs. A mother cried into her hands. A little boy shouted, "She did it!" Emily sat frozen, staring at the instruments, her eyes wet. "We're on the ground," she whispered. "Copy that," Captain Rhodes said gently. "Welcome home, Emily." She took off the headset and covered her face with her hands as tears of relief fell. The world outside blurred, but she didn't care. She had done the impossible. The cabin doors opened to a flood of warm Miami sunlight. The air smelled of fuel, tarmac, and something else, freedom. Firefighters and paramedics rushed toward the aircraft, but no one moved at first. The passengers were frozen in silence, taking in what had just happened. Then slowly they began to clap. Emily stayed in the cockpit, staring blankly at the controls, her headset lying beside her. Her hands still trembled. The weight of what she had done hadn't hit her yet. It felt distant, unreal, like a dream she hadn't fully woken from. A flight attendant placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You did it," she whispered, her eyes full of tears. "You saved all of us." Emily looked up, blinking through exhaustion. Her voice cracked when she tried to speak. "Are they the pilots?" The attendant shook her head slightly. "They're alive. Medics are taking them now. You kept them alive long enough." Emily let out a shaky breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "Good," she whispered. "That's good." As she unbuckled her seatbelt and stood, her knees nearly gave out. Two paramedics helped her down the narrow aisle, where every single passenger stood to applaud. Some clapped, some cried openly, some whispered blessings as she passed. An elderly man pressed his hand to his heart. A mother lifted her little girl so she could see the hero walking past. Outside the jet, camera flashes were already starting. News crews had gathered beyond the security line. The story had spread faster than the landing. 19-year-old student lands plane alone. But Emily didn't notice the chaos. She just squinted at the sunlight, clutching a bottle of water someone had handed her. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the side of the plane, and she barely recognized herself. The scared passenger was gone. In her place stood a young woman who had faced the impossible. "Ms. Carter," a voice called. A man in a pilot's uniform approached. Captain Rhodes, the same air traffic controller who had guided her down, had driven out to meet her in person. His face was calm, but his eyes were glassy with pride. He removed his cap and held it against his chest. "You've done something extraordinary today," he said softly. "We've got veterans who couldn't have handled that better." Emily shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just did what you told me," he smiled faintly. "And that's what makes a great pilot." She looked at the runway. The black skid marks where the tires had met the ground, the heat waves dancing above it. The scene felt like a blur of color and noise, but underneath it all was a strange stillness. Peace. Hours later, after statements and checks, Emily sat alone near the edge of the tarmac, legs crossed, staring at the evening sky. The sun was dipping low, painting the clouds orange and gold. The airport lights flickered on one by one. A reporter approached but stopped a few feet away when he saw the expression on her face. She wasn't chasing fame or attention. She was just quiet, humble, and utterly human. She whispered a small prayer under her breath, not for headlines or glory, but for the people who had lived to see tomorrow. When a light breeze brushed across her face, she smiled faintly and looked toward the sky, the same sky that had almost taken everything, but instead gave her something new: courage, faith, and a story no one would ever forget. The world would remember Emily Carter, not as a hero from a movie, but as a 19-year-old girl who stayed calm when everyone else froze, who believed when everyone else panicked, and as the last streaks of sunlight faded behind the runway, she whispered to herself with a trembling smile, "I guess I really can fly."